everybody. My name is Gary Cox, and hopefully you can see me. If you can hear me, somebody type in the Q&A so that you can hear me. That would be awesome, just to let me know that I am being heard and that you can see my screen. Hear you loud and clear. Thank you, Nadia, and loud and clear, and I can see your screen. Awesome, that's great. So let me get started then. My name is Gary Cox, and I'm with Barrington OPS, and I'm absolutely delighted to be here with you today on talking about email management. It's one of the things I'm pretty passionate about, and using email management, and hopefully it can help make you more effective and productive in how you're managing and using your email. So a little bit about myself. I've been Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt for, well, close to approaching up to a decade now. I had a 35-year career with Canada Post. Started back in the late 70s and worked my way up as from a letter carrier all the way up to the National Director for Process Engineering, responsible for the Lean Six Sigma training program and deployment. So let me just do a bit of a caveat here. While I was the National Director of Process Engineering, I'm not an engineer. So you might say, hey, how's that possible? Well, anything's possible at Canada Post. I can guarantee you that. But no, I actually had a title of Master Black Belt and was one of the few at Canada Post that had a title of Master Black Belt. But we had a number of process engineering directors. And I think in order to create consistency in the organization, they changed my title. And while I told them, hey, I'm not an engineer, they said it's a title and don't worry about it, we'll manage. So anyway, once I retired, I think everything was okay. All the industrial engineering directors there are now engineers. So I joined Barrington Consulting in 2015 and started to do some training with the province of Nova Scotia, with HRM, Efficiency Nova Scotia, and on their Lean Six Sigma deployment, personal productivity. And one of the areas that has really captured a lot of attention is in the area of email management and how to use email effectively. So that's kind of what I want to talk to you guys about. Now, it's interesting when we think about, how over the generations, how we have tried to maintain our productivity. I'm sure some of you may still use, if you still use Planner, just type in the Q's and A's that you're actually using a planner. It would be interesting for me to know how many people are still using a paper-based planner. But I actually had a Palm Pilot. Like many people, I had a BlackBerry, and of course now I have Outlook. And using Outlook is it's interesting because the concepts I learned through Stephen Covey's Steps of Highly Effective People that I was using with my day planner didn't marry with my Outlook. And I said, this is not, I was keeping two systems and it just wasn't working. So I started to think about, how do I take this manual concept and move it over into my Outlook, which is what I've been using and doing. So, excuse me. So the objectives for me today is to help you understand how you can get to 0 emails in your inbox. I'm really curious about how many emails some of you might have currently in your inbox, but I'm going to show you some techniques and some tips on how you can get to 0 in your inbox. And also I want to help you support with how you can maintain that over the long period of time. So I'm seeing here some people have over 1,000, 2,800. Somebody else has typed there, Tyler, so appreciate that. Oh, 10, way to go, Zach. All right, good for you. So appreciate the interactiveness too. And is that serious there, Tanya? 60,000, 350,000? Oh my gosh, I think I'm going to stop looking at the chats for just a second. The agenda for today is I'm going to talk to you about how you eliminate and identify the non-value-added activities that you do that are part of your email management currently, and how you can adjust and adopt those. So I'm going to show you real time. I'm going to bring up my Outlook and show you real time how I manage my emails in my inbox. And then hopefully if you've got questions, you'll be able to type them into the box. And if there's any that jump out, I will absolutely do my best to answer those. So poor Ann's got 436 unread emails. So just think about that for a minute, what that would mean in the terms of how much time you require just to read those emails. First of all, I want you to think about the role, why you receive emails to begin with. So you're receiving emails for what I would suggest are, 4 reasons. First of all, the role you play. Whatever the role you play, and all of you are, I believe most of you are engineers because you belong to Engineering Nova Scotia. So the role you play inside your organization, you're receiving emails because of the role you play. You may be a project lead, you may have different roles within one major role, and a lot of those are because they're aligned to your goals. You have specific goals or specific projects that you're working with within your roles, and you're getting emails because they're aligned to the goals that you have to accomplish. Or you're supporting somebody else and in their goals, and so you're getting emails in the form of support. Or the 4th reason is you're on somebody's mailing list. You're just simply there. When somebody types in a group, you're automatically copied, or you're on a subscription mailing list that you subscribe to, and you're getting emails for that reason. So why is it important that you kind of understand these why you're getting emails to begin with? Because the way you get emails, or the reason you're getting emails, will determine how you're going to handle those emails. So let me give you some examples. Those of you who are familiar, anybody familiar with the Lean Six Sigma TIMWOODS? Again, type into the Q's and A's if you're familiar with TIMWOODS or downtime. Some people use the acronym downtime, and I see a couple of you say typing yes there. So think about your email management system that you currently have, and think about the TIMWOODS waste. So we teach in Lean Six Sigma this whole idea of identifying value-added versus non-value-added activities. And we use TIMWOODS as the acronym. So sending and receiving emails unnecessarily, definitely considered to be sort of the transportation component. Inventory is what's in your inbox. Some of you with thousands, some of you with a few. Some it's interesting. Marshall is saying that you've never heard of it, but that's good. It's okay. Getting Things Done is an excellent book too. I've read that book as well. So using this acronym, I want you to think about the inventory in your inbox, or the number of folders that you have that you're putting your emails into. I want you to think about the amount of time it's taking you to actually find emails that you want to go back and find and reference later, because that would be motion. So the I is inventory, the M is motion, and then what are you doing in the way of searching for emails? Waiting is W, and if you're waiting for responses from people, to be able to do the next step in your work or your process, or to move something forward, then that's obviously a problem. Touching emails more than once. Now that's an interesting one, is overproduction. So every time you touch something more than once, you're actually, you're overprocessing. You're overprocessing that email. And so, and then overproduction is when you're copying people unnecessarily. If you are the recipient of somebody else's CC and you didn't need to be CC'd, then that's creating an overproduction component for you. And usually overproduction creates inventory. So maybe many of those 436 unread emails that Anne has, many of those could simply be she was CC'd on something and she really probably didn't need to get them in the first place, or it was an FYI and she's just got them there in the event that she needs them. Obviously, if they're missing, Anne says true. So obviously, if you've got missing information, then it's a defect. If you have to go back to somebody for clarification on an email, or it's missing something, then that's a defect. And then the last one is skills, and this is kind of what I'm trying to talk to you guys today about, is that that skill deficiency. And if you're managing Outlook inbox like it's a filing system, then you're probably not doing yourself a justice as to the amount of productivity that you're losing as a result of trying to do that. So I want to talk to you about that. I mentioned to you that I was a 35-year career employee at Canada Post, and I always use this analogy. When you get mail, or used to get mail, maybe don't get so much physical mail anymore, but when you used to get physical mail, how did you handle your physical mail? You went to the mailbox, right? You opened it up and you took the mail out, and what you didn't do was you didn't open up the envelope, look at it, fold it up, stick it back in the envelope, open up the next one, look at it, fold it up, stick it back in the envelope, stick them all back in the mailbox. The next day you come back to the mailbox, you take all the mail out, and you say, which of these didn't I read? And you flip through and you go, oh, here's one I haven't opened. And you open that one up and you look at it. You did something with it. When you went to physical mail, you actually did something with every single piece of mail that you got. You would open it up and you'd say, oh, okay, that's a bill I have to pay, and you would write it on the calendar, you'd stick it on the fridge, you do something with it. If it was for somebody else, you'd say, hey, this isn't for me, this is for you, you would give it to them. Or you would say, oh, this is garbage, I'm going to throw it away, I don't need to read this is done. And that's what you would only ever touch that piece of physical mail, most likely only once. And that's the mindset I want you to have with your electronic email. Why don't we think about our electronic email the same way as we used to think about our physical email? Because if we can think about our physical email in one way, our electronic email the same way, now we're starting to think about the idea of one touch. And that's what I want to talk to you about. I want to talk to you about these 5 Ds, we call them. So the first one is delete it. The second one is designate it. Those are really not actionable. You simply delete it or you give it to somebody. Delegate it is giving it to somebody else. Doing it is about simply taking the time to do it and do it now. Or you defer it, and that simply means you're going to wait and tackle it a little bit later on. So here's what we're going to do. So I'm going to follow through this process, and then I'm going to show you real time how this works, and then we'll open it up to some Q's and A's. So I have my inbox, and if you guys are engineers and you can appreciate a good process map like I do, I kind of got a flow diagram here on how you handle your emails. So you have this inbox, and from your inbox, the first thing you want to ask yourself was, hey, is this something that's truly worthy of me? Do I need this? Right? If the answer is no, delete it. Don't be thinking, oh, because somebody sent it to me, I got to keep it. You should be saying, this is something somebody sent to me. I'm going to determine whether it has value or not. And if it has value, I'm going to do something with it. If it doesn't have value, I'm going to delete it. So that's the first thing you need to ask yourself. Do I need it? If I don't need it, delete it. So let's assume for a moment that it's required your time and your action. So the next step would be you need to designate it to a category. Now, again, I'm going to ask you in the Q's and A's, if you use categories as a part of your email management system, just let me know that in there, because it's interesting to see. If you don't, I'd like to know that too, because using categories is a way for you to so I see some yeses. So using categories is a way for you to be able to identify and tag emails. So a lot of you are using yeses. It's interesting, but somebody's saying that Michael's saying he's got a huge filing system. I'm going to show you how categories can help you in this way. So once I've designated to a category, I'm going to determine, do I need to action it? And if the answer is no, I don't need to action it, I simply move it out of my inbox into a red folder. I create a folder. In my case, it's called Gary's Emails. I'll show you that in a second. And I just slide it over into there. Once it's categorized, I get rid of it out of my inbox. If it's something I need to action, then I've got to ask myself a couple of things. Is it worth my time to action it, or am I going to delegate it to somebody else on my team? So if it's for somebody, I'm going to delegate on my team. So in other words, this isn't for me to action. This is for one of my team members to action. I'm going to delegate it. So I'm seeing some of you organized by project, your categories. So you're going to find, hopefully, what I'm going to share with you quite useful for that reason as well. So you're going to delegate it to somebody else. And you can do that by assigning them a task. So you can create a task. I have a task bar on my task list. So many of you probably have this big list of tasks that you use. You can actually assign a task. So again, I use the whole assign a task, and then I get it out of my inbox. Once it's assigned to somebody, I have a reminder on that. I'll show you how to do that. I get it out of my inbox. But let's say it's worth my time. Okay, so this is something I now need to do. I need to address this. So, question I ask myself is this something I can do in less than a couple of minutes? If the answer is yes, I do it right now. I do it. I simply do it, get it done, get it out of my inbox. But if it's something that's going to take longer than a couple of minutes, it's not something I'm going to do, well, I can't do this right this second. I got to think about this, or I got to read something, or I got to do something else with it. I come down to this decision. Is it going to be greater than 2 minutes, but less than 15 minutes? Okay, so this is a short little thing, something I need to do. I may not even need to have to do it right now. I create it as a task, and I'll show you how I filter my tasks so that only the things do for me on a particular day show up. And so I say, okay, so if it's something short, I create it as a task. If it's something that requires longer, it's a report I need to read, it's a document I've got to look at, it's going to require some sort of thought process for me to answer, it's going to take a little bit longer, I actually drag it over and stick it into my calendar. I make an appointment with myself to manage that email. And so that's what I can do with that process. And then I get it out of my inbox. Again, everything I try to do, one touch it into my inbox. So in summary, here's kind of how it looks. Everything gets categorized first, unless I'm going to delete it. And with the things with categories, those of you who use categories will know that you can apply multiple categories to a particular item or email. And I think that's really important because it helps us in our filing system. Everything that gets moved to my red folder once I've done it and read it, if it's something that takes me less than a couple of minutes, I'm going to do it right now. If it's something that requires a longer period of time, but less than 15 minutes, I'll assign it as a task and I'll do it on a particular day, a particular morning. And if it's longer than 15 minutes, I will actually book myself an appointment for myself in my calendar as to when I'm going to do that. If some of you are out there and you've got this emails and you know that there's things you need to action in those emails and you have not built time in your calendar to do those actions, you are probably stressing yourself out unnecessarily. What happens is we don't manage our emails in a way that allows us to say, you guys get cycle time and tack time and production time and so on. If I'm simply going to try to manage my emails when I have time, you'll never have time. You know that. You get at it first thing in the morning, you go through them, and then you go about your day doing your other work. Now, working from home, it's even more prevalent because most of us are not in the workspace, able to walk around. We're sitting in an office somewhere, in a home office or wherever you are sitting. So your emails are always evident, always present. You need to block time in your calendar to do that kind of work. So it's important to be able to do that. So let me, again, some of you told me how many emails you have, but I'm really curious, again, in the chat box, if you haven't told me how many emails you have, just curious. I know we had some with 50,000. I had one with 10, somewhere in between 238 unread, 9,000, 163 Adam has. Okay. All right. So Adam Sketchley, 5. I wonder if that's the Adam Sketchley I know off the street. Yeah, 700, 1,200. Okay. So here's what I want to do. I want to help you get to 0. How are we going to do that? First of all, I want you to declare, those of you that have more than 30 or 40, I need you to declare email bankruptcy. I simply need you to be able to say, okay, if I want to start a new system, I can't go back and work 47,000 emails or 12,000 emails. It is Adam up the street. Hi, Adam. I wondered if it was Adam up the street. I know Adam. So how do you manage this? How do you manage that? Well, what I do is I created a folder, and I created a folder in my inbox, and I simply dated it the day that I was going to start this new process. So before today's date. And then I took all of the emails that are in my inbox and I simply put them into that folder. You haven't lost your emails. They haven't gone anywhere. The only difference is they're now in a unique folder. This gives you the advantage to say, if I'm going to start a new system, I have the way to be able to do that now. I have a way to be able to manage that now. So let me open up my emails and show you how I do this real time. So all right, so you'll see right now I have 9 unread emails. Then 5 of these emails I've asked a colleague of mine to send me today so that we could use them for this particular example and so on. So here we go as it relates to the email. So first thing I need to ask myself is, do I need this email to begin with? So what Robert has asked me here, he's got a report that he wants me to review, and he says, please review and offer your feedback. So the first thing I'm going to do is categorize that. And if I go to categories, I can do it this way, and you'll see my categories. You'll see all of my list of categories, and the categories that I use are role-based or goal-based. So I have categories for my roles, I have categories for my goals. And I heard and saw some of you talking about how you use them for different projects and names and different projects and so on. It's great, because the thing you're able to do with categories is you're able to tag more than one category to an email. So let me, I don't have a service, an Engineering Nova Scotia category, but I'm going to create one. So ENGNS, and I'll color code it a nice shade of blue, because that's your guys' color, and I simply add that. So I have now created this category, and I've tagged it. But this is also a webinar. So you know what? I'm going to categorize it webinars too. So I've now tagged this email to 2 categories. And what you'll see is right away they show up here on the email. So at the top of my email, I have webinar, I have the Engineering Nova Scotia, and I have that. You'll also notice that, and maybe you haven't, you'll see that I've got different font sizes and different colors for different senders. So I did that in the view section. So if I go to view, and then I go into view settings, I go to the for conditional formatting, and I can actually create a font and color exclusive for particular senders. So I can do that simply by creating add, and then I create a new one. And so let me just say Beth. I see Beth there. Beth Lovo. And I say my font. I'm going to give Beth this font. I'm going to give her the color maroon. I say OK. I say OK. Whoops. Whoops. What did I do wrong here? Font Beth emails. Oh, that's because I didn't create the condition. Yeah. So I need to create the condition. So in frequently used fields under the sender from field contains Beth. I'm going too fast here, that's why. Although I say add, say okay, okay, okay. And so what you'll see is that anything that Beth sends me now will have the color code Beth. It just simply, again, if you're getting a lot of emails from very specific people, it's a way for you to be able to color code your inbox a little bit. So these ones from Robert, you can see here. This particular one, I've asked myself, do I need it? Yes, I need it. I actually need to action it. So I'm going to action it. Is it going to take me less than 2 minutes? No, it's going to take me longer than 2 minutes. Is it going to take me 15 minutes or more? Probably. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to take that and drag it to my calendar. So there's 2 ways you can do that. I can right-click it and copy it. Oops. Right-click and copy it. And for those of you who don't know, if you right-click the calendar, you can actually open up your calendar in a new window. So you have both windows open here. And I'm going to go, okay, so when am I going to do that? My calendar's pretty full, but you know what? Tuesday morning, I can do that. I'm going to review that. So I open up this. I paste the email in there, review, and respond for Robert. Okay, save it. I've now got 25 minutes dedicated to doing that. Because it's now done, I'm simply going to take it over and drag it into one folder, Gary's emails. It's been read, it's been done, I've done that. So let's look at this other one. So this other one says, here's a link to the website, right? Okay, you know what? He didn't even include the link, so I don't need that. I can do a Google search and find that. So I'm going to just simply delete that one. Here's another one that he sent over. He says, can you get back to me after the webinar? Yeah, absolutely, I can do that. That's a task that I can do. So again, I'm going to copy it. I'm going to create a new task. I'm going to say, get back to Robert. And I'm going to paste that in here. I now have it. When am I going to do that? I'm going to do that after the webinar. So actually, I'm going to do that later today. I say, okay, file and save. Two things will happen. You'll see it showed up over here. I've actually created a filter in my taskbar that only things that are due for me on that day show up in my taskbar. Now, again, I can categorize that. Well, I can categorize that as webinar and engineering Nova Scotia. Engineer Nova Scotia. I say okay, and I drag that and drop it into here. So here's another one. Our planned training will now take place in the fall. Okay, that's kind of interesting. So I want to actually send that to my colleagues. I want to forward that because that's important for my colleagues to know. So it's not something I need to action, but it is something I need to do, and I can do that right now. So I'm actually going to forward that to my other colleagues, Trish and Logan. And all right, delete. I'm just going to tell them to delete this because they don't know they're getting it. Delete this email. So they'll get that, but you get the idea. Once I've done it, I've done it. I categorize it, and because I've actually done it in my sent, I don't even need to keep it anymore. I'm just going to delete that. And this last one is in Nova Scotia, Engineering Nova Scotia is curious about our services. Can I provide them more information? You know what? That's actually something I'm going to assign to Logan. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to create a new task, but I'm actually going to assign that task to Logan. So who am I giving that to? Logan. When you book time in your calendar, do you mean to move the email to become a meeting? Yes, that's exactly it. So yes, so Patty's asking, is that what I'm basically creating a meeting email appointment for myself? Absolutely, that's exactly what I'm doing. So I would say to Logan, can you please provide info to ENS? So I would do that, and I would give him a due date, and I'll say I'm going to have him do that by Monday, and I can actually keep a track here. Do I want to keep an updated copy on my task list, or do I want to send a copy after it's repeat? So when he's completed that task, and he says it's complete, I will get notification it's complete. So I send that to him, and again, I don't need to, I can choose to keep it, I can choose to file it, I can choose to do whatever I want with it. So I do that. So this is a way that I can manage it. Now, how do you find searching files? So rather than those of you who have folders and subfolders and subfolders of subfolders over here on this side, you'll see I don't have any of those. But I do have search folders. And what I do is I create a search folder for each category that I have. So I just created a new category, that engineering category, right? So I'm going to create a new search folder. I'm going to go down and create a custom search folder. Oops. And NS. And the criteria will simply be this. In the category field, if the value is ENGNS, I say add it to my list. I say okay, I say okay. So what will happen is all of the emails that I have tagged Engineering Nova Scotia will now be in that folder. Likewise, if I check, because these actually have webinar, if I actually checked my webinar folder, you'll see those same emails here. What it allows me to do is it allows me to actually put emails in more than one folder per se. What it allows me to do is, so if you have a project, and some of you said you keep folders for projects. If you have a project folder, and that project folder might have to do with a specific piece of equipment, we'll say, right? And you're saying, okay, this project requires these pieces of equipment. And it's a piece of equipment that you would use on multiple projects. you might want to have a category for that piece of equipment, but you might use that email associated with that piece of equipment and just tag it with the equipment. So, so Marcel is saying, isn't it handy? You can organize it by project and by resources. Exactly, right? This is a way for you to be able to and you can tag as an email with as many categories as you want. So if you're a project lead, if you're a support person, if you're whatever role you're playing, it's exactly, Nadia, using this instead of subcategories. You're simply saying this one email is associated to all of these things, and I'm going to create a category for these things. And when I tag it with that category, it doesn't matter where I put it as long as I've got it. So all of my emails that I keep are in this one folder called Gary's Emails. And all of them have been tagged with various categories so that I can find them. It's probably one of the most useful ways for you to be able to use categories. So that's kind of a blitz version of how I go about handling my emails. I use that whole categories component to help me find my emails. I use the one-touch system. It comes in, I move it, I delegate it. I also will use rules. So those of you, any of you using Rule Wizard or using the rules? Anyone? So there you go. So Logan accepted the task. So I got confirmation that Logan accepted my task. So some of you are using rules and Rule Wizard. So rules are really good to use for a number of reasons. First of all, if you're on somebody's emailing list and you simply don't want to, they do send you stuff that you kind of might want to look at from time to time. You might want to create a rule to assign it to a category and then move it into your inbox, over to your email red folder. Just simply all in one go. You don't have to handle that email. It automatically does it for you. If you're getting emails, junk emails from senders that you can't get rid of and you can't unsubscribe from, create a rule to send it to your junk folder. So it's easy enough to create the rules. You usually create them on your server, and so to create this particular rule could be for a particular sender, and I could say, okay, this is anything I get from Mike. What is it that I want to do? All right, I can. So any email I get from Mike, I would say, right? What do I want to do? I want to move that specific to a folder. Where do I want to move? I'm not going to do this for Mike's emails, but I could set up these rules for every email. If I get enough emails from one particular person or one particular group, I might set up a rule. In the same way I color-coded Beth's emails, I can set up a rule to do something else with that email. So Rule Wizard is really handy when it comes to automation. I have also, for example, anybody out there got multiple inboxes? You have multiple emails. Maybe you've got a client's email address. And like I have email addresses for the province of Nova Scotia, and I have email addresses for another client, and then I have my Barrington email address. So if you've got that, you can actually build a rule in that if you're managing multiple calendars, as I often have to, what I will do is I built a rule in that any email that is an appointment for a calendar meeting automatically gets forwarded to my other emails. So my calendar in my other accounts gets a tentative appointment blocked, so I don't have a client trying to book me for a time in their calendar because they can't see my Barrington calendar. So this is another way for me to manage my time. I don't have to think, oh, I've got to send this, I've got to forward this appointment to my other email calendar, and then I got to go in and accept it to get it into my calendar. Don't have to do that. I have it so it automatically forwards it over to these other accounts. So again, another little tip for you on how you're able to do that. So in email options, those of you who have the little box open and get the little alerts down in the bottom of your corner of your email, say, hey, you got an email, and I'm gonna challenge you to turn that off, and you do that under notifications. So if you go to your file system under Options and you go to Mail, you can turn off. You'll see that when I have a message arrive, I've turned off all of my sound. I've turned off all of my little indicators to say I've got incoming emails. And I do that because I want to be dedicated to whatever it is I've dedicated my time to. I don't want to have to shift my thinking every 10 seconds to an email that's come in and say, oh, should I look at that? Do I need to read that now? What do I do with that now? You know, I don't need that distraction. So I turn that off. So turn off those notifications. They will, there's a little exercise I used to take people through where if they do it in the training, where I say, you know, write a series of numbers from 1 to 10, and then write a series of letters from A to H, and then write a series of Roman numerals from 1 to 10. And I have them do that. And of course, when they're doing it in linear, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and then so on, they do that fairly quick. But when I tell them to do that same task, but what I want you to do is I want you to go 1, A, Roman numeral 1, 2, B, Roman numeral 2. The mind, of course, slows them down. That's exactly what happens with you when you get the little inbox thing that pops up on your screen to tell you to do a task. You go, your mind goes from whatever you were working on to, oh, should I do something with that? No, I won't. I'll do that. Or, oh, yes, I'm going to do something with that. Now you've taken your train of thought away from what you were actually working on. So clear those up for sure. A couple of other things little tips that I do as it relates to the options. I always actually attach when I forward an email, my forward doesn't include the whole body of the email. It includes it as an attachment. So that way, if the person who I'm sending the email to doesn't want to have to scroll through everything, it's already there. So actually, you can see, yeah. Yeah, my email confused me. Yeah, it would be because Logan doesn't. That's kind of funny. I'll get back to Logan in a minute. See about that? That's the only thing I get notice on is my Teams, and that's because you can't turn off notifications for Teams. It's a bit of an irritant for me. Okay, let's open up to Q&As because I'm curious what your thoughts are, and do you have any questions? Is there anything there? I know this is being recorded, so you can go back and watch it again. But is there anything you would like me to touch on or go after in the 15 minutes or so we have left? Because I plowed through that pretty fast because I often find the Q's and A's on addressing things that interest you when you do that. So please feel free to write down questions. So Mark is saying he just uses rules for the out-of-office notification, and that's probably what most of us use it for, Mark. If we, hopefully today you've realized you can use rules for a whole lot more than just that. So, all right. So a couple of questions. Emerson saying, any experience on attachment handling in my inbox size? Yeah. So obviously, the thing with attachments is, again, when I get an email, if there is an attachment and I created as a category, I think many of you sat in on Robert's OneNote. Did anybody sit in on Robert's OneNote? If you sat in on Robert's OneNote, you can actually move it to OneNote, which I think is a really good thing to do. You don't have to keep it in your inbox. I will often move it to a shared drive folder as well. So I'm just going to go back. Some of you have more questions coming in. Oh, Mike Farrell says to say hello. We say, Larry, tell Mike I said hi back. Does assigning a category remove the email from the inbox? The answer is no. So if you have a category and you've assigned it to a category, you'll see, and I'll use this one as an example. This is again another one. I'll do engineering Nova Scotia, I'll do webinar, I'll do that. So they're just color coded and it just stays here. So this is actually from Beth, so telling me about the webinar today. So here's one of those. What would you do with that? What would you do with that? Delete it, right? Beth has shared with me. I'm ready to go. So I can start when I'm ready, and I did that, so that's good. So I can just simply delete that. I don't need to keep that in my inbox. All right, so Michael is asking, can you set up notification rules to identify speaking people. For instance, if you're working away on something, putting in time, but you really are waiting a critical email, okay, will that action come up on a receipt? That's an interesting question. I really don't know if that can be done, Michael. I know that you can set up certain rules for certain individuals. You can set up certain rules for certain categories. So maybe if in the email subject category you had a protocol where it was considered urgent, right? So if somebody wrote urgent in the subject line, you could have a rule that says if the word urgent is in your subject line, then you need to do something with it. And so maybe there's an opportunity there, because again, you can, as you saw with rules, you can really create pretty intense rules as it relates to emails and things. So under advanced options, you can do so much with this. So this is if I'm clicked on someone. If I don't simply click on anyone and I simply want to go to view settings, I can also create rules up here on a conditional formatting. I had to play with that one a bit, Michael, and this is probably not the time to be able to do that, but I would think you can create a rule around the subject matter with the word urgent in the subject line that will help you identify that. So, do you know if there is a way, Zach is asking, do you know if there's a way to search by attachment type, Excel, PDF, Words, etc.? Again, when I go into my emails, you can use the traditional search patterns. I don't believe you can search folders and subfolders and items here, but I don't, I have never had to search for file types myself. Oh, here's another thing that another little tip I did want to share with you. So under view, anytime you're in view, you'll see I have here show as a conversation. That's another really good little tip for you. Under show as a conversation and conversations, what will happen is if I check that, anything that has the same heading, so you'll see here under, for example, I'm doing some work with Joe. I'm going to call any emails, any emails attached that Joe and I have had are now all grouped together. So it doesn't matter when we contacted each other, as long as it has this subject line, and it will group these together. So you'll see this. So this is called, so again, under view, show conversations, click down the long one. I have all of those checked. So again, it just helps me organize. But to answer your question, Zach, I've never had to search by file type because of categories. So I don't believe that is the answer. If you use categories, Tanya's asking, if you use categories, could you use a category to assign an attachment type and filter it that way? That's a good possibility, actually, Tanya. So thank you for piping in with that idea. Sorting by conversation was a game changer. Yeah, absolutely, I agree, Ed, that it certainly was. So. We still got some time. If anybody has anything else, and I mean, I'm really enjoying the engagement of the conversation here. Let me see. Anybody else got any other questions? I'm not gonna hold you up if there's no other questions. Multiple attendees are typing, so it sounds like there are some more questions coming in. Use the following except. Okay, so Richard has suggested. Use the following for attachment search, and he's got a ext colon and then the extension. Really, I like that. Great idea. So yeah, I think that's yeah. So it would be like ext colon XL maybe. No. .xl. There we go. Okay. Well, there you go. So, hey, great tip. There we go. Love it. Love it when I learn something too. It's always great. So, Yeah, so that's a really good best practice. Anne is saying that they've implemented a subject line, so protocols, action for approval and so on. We did that at Canada Post. My engineering team and I, we used the subject line, whether this was just an FYI, whether action was required, to your point, whether there's approval or so on, information, that kind of thing. So using that subject line is a really good way to set email protocols up within the groups that you work with. So that's a good thing. I do want to suggest to you as well that if you are getting emails, copied on emails that you feel you don't need to be copied on, I don't think I don't think it's wrong for you to politely reach back to those people that are sending you those emails and politely suggest that you didn't need to be CC'd, and here's why. I know that has to be done delicately, and I know that that's kind of a change management thing, but that really becomes part of the culture of an organization. We hit this reply all button far too often, and we don't need to be doing that for sure. So circling back and moving attachments into OneNote. Okay, can I show an example? Sure, absolutely. So let's assume I've got an email and I want to do this. So there's a couple of things I can do with that. I can actually move it to OneNote here. So I right-click, scroll down, move it to OneNote, or I can copy it, which is actually my preference. And once I know, like those of you who know OneNote, you can set up various books or notebooks for different topics and so on. And this particular one has to do with Barrington OPS. So I could simply do that. I could add a page, and I could simply put it into here. And I do two choices. I can attach the email as an email, and it's simply, I can just open it up that way, or I can insert it as a printout. Inserting it as a printout just gives me the contents of the words. It doesn't include the file. So you'll always want to make sure you attach it as a file. So this is that particular one. I could do this one, and I'll just call this one Edge because of the subject matter. And once it's in OneNote, I can open it up, and when I open it up, there it is. The email is there, the attachment is there, everything I need about that email is right there. So once I've done that, I can get it out of my inbox. I can get it out of my inbox. Hopefully that helps you, Mark. Good. Linking calendar, how about the linking calendars across various applications such as Gmail and so on? Yes. So again, I did that in rules. So I created a rule in my inbox. I created a rule that all of the mail, any email that I get that comes in, any email sent to me, so emails sent to me, I can set up this rule. I say next. What do I want to do with it? I can assign it to a category. So I can assign it to a particular category, and here I can assign it to whatever. In this case, I'll say ENS, Engineering Nova Scotia. So I can assign it to a category. I can also do something else with it. So if I want to forward it to a public group or a specific email or message, I can forward this one as an attachment, forward it to a group, move it to a specific folder. So I would follow this process, and I would use my Gmail account as to who I wanted to forward it to, right? So who do I want to send that to? I would put my Gmail account in here. So I'm not going to do that because I don't need to do that. But hopefully that is helpful. All right, we have tried, yeah, implementing. Anybody else? You're welcome, Emerson. All right, we've got 10 more minutes, but I'm not going to belittle anybody else. Lasting questions. Well, let me just ask you this. Was this helpful? Let me ask you that. Have anybody feeling that this was value-added time? I've taken, almost an hour of your time. So is there anything that I could have done differently? Thank you. I appreciate the feedback so far. So anybody, could I have done anything differently? I know it was being recorded, so I didn't mind kind of moving a little fast because I knew you would have access to that recording. If you don't have access, I would suggest you reach back out to Beth or Christine and see if they can show you that. So we also have, yeah, Matthew's saying looks like he needs an Outlook 101. So just to share with that, not that I wouldn't, I'm going to put a plug in here. Barrington OPS has a on our homepage, if you go to Barrington OPS and you go to our webinars, we have a number of those actually. I think it's about Mark or somebody was asking. So you'll see the email management one that I just shared with you is actually videotaped as well. But with those of you who want to know how to use your calendar a little bit more, those of you who want to know how to use tasks a little better, maybe applying 5S to your inbox and your emails and your systems, how to create vision. So we've got a number of webinars that we've created. So calendar optimization, right? Email hack, so on, task management. They're all there. So I encourage you to take a visit and find that. So. All right, so 63 folks on board, and it looks like you all hung in there, so I appreciate that very much. My contact information, you can reach me through the ops at barringtongroup.ca or visit the website, as you can see there, and contact us, and we'll get that. I encourage you, if you're not connected to me through LinkedIn, please feel free to do that. I'm always looking to talk to like-minded individuals and see what's on their minds, see what they're sharing and learning. So it's great. So appreciate it. And with that, I will I'll let you guys go. So yeah, I'm going to stick around if you want to. If you want to have any last questions for the last couple of minutes, I'm happy to answer those. Otherwise, I'm going to be able to let you guys go. Thank you.